Have you ever given everything you had? Your time, your energy, your youth. You worked late nights. You said no to comfort. You stayed disciplined for years. And then one day, you stopped. You looked around, and a terrifying thought crept in. I'm nowhere near the life I wanted. Maybe you climbed rung after rung on the corporate ladder, only to realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong building. Maybe you chased a dream with fire in your chest and iron discipline, but it wasn't your dream to begin with. Or maybe you're just exhausted, so tired of running and running and running until you finally realized you've been sprinting in the wrong direction. That moment hits hard. The moment when you wonder if all those sacrifices were meaningless, if one wrong decision silently stole years of your life. If you've ever felt that weight in your chest, this story is for you. Because this is not just a story about effort. It's a story about direction, about two men who wanted the same destination but chose very different paths. One believed speed was everything, the other believed wisdom mattered more. And the ending? It will completely change how you think about success. So don't go anywhere. At the edge of a quiet village, beneath the overwhelming shadow of Mount Serenity, lived two childhood friends, Daniel and Marcus. They were both 25 years old, hungry, ambitious, restless, convinced their future was waiting for them somewhere beyond the horizon. Towering above their village stood Mount Serenity, a mountain feared and revered by all. It had three peaks, but only one truly mattered. The highest peak, the sacred summit. Legends whispered that at its top stood an ancient temple, and anyone who reached it would gain absolute clarity about their true purpose in life. Many had tried to climb it. Most gave up, some never came back. Yet Daniel and Marcus looked at that mountain and believed the same thing. That summit is where our lives begin. One clear spring morning, Daniel and Marcus stood face to face and made a promise that would change everything. Let's climb it together, Daniel said, his eyes burning with confidence. Whoever reaches the sacred summit first will prove they were meant for greatness. Marcus paused, then nodded. Agreed. We begin at sunrise tomorrow. That night, Daniel prepared with ruthless intensity. He pushed his body to exhaustion. He stripped his pack down to the bare minimum. He unfolded an old, faded map, something he had bought years ago from a traveling merchant, and traced the shortest route with his finger. Speed is the key, he told himself. The fastest climber wins. Marcus, meanwhile, chose a very different preparation. Instead of training harder, he walked to the edge of the village and knocked on the door of the oldest home there. Inside lived Elena, a 75-year-old elder whose name was spoken with quiet respect. She was the only person anyone knew who had ever reached the sacred summit and lived to return. Grandmother Elena, Marcus said softly, lowering his head, I want to climb the mountain. Will you teach me? Elena studied him for a long moment, her eyes sharp despite her age. Most people come to me asking how to climb faster, she said. You are asking how to climb at all. That tells me you're already thinking differently. From beneath her table, she pulled out a worn compass and a hand-drawn map, creased, detailed, and nothing like the crude one Daniel carried. The mountain has many paths, she warned. Some look easy but lead nowhere. Some look dangerous, but are the only way up. She leaned closer. Your path matters far more than your speed. Marcus listened. He asked questions. He stayed long after the fire burned low, absorbing every lesson. At dawn, the mountain loomed above them as both men stood at its base. Daniel bounced on his feet, overflowing with energy. Running shoes, minimal gear, pure confidence. I'll see you at the top, he shouted, and without hesitation, he sprinted up the widest, clearest trail. Marcus didn't rush. He tightened his sturdy boots, held Elena's compass in his hand, and studied the terrain carefully. Then he stepped onto a narrow, winding path, longer, slower, but safer according to the map. Within an hour, Daniel was far ahead. Marcus was barely visible below, moving carefully, deliberately. Daniel laughed under his breath. Too careful, he thought. I'll reach the summit by sunset. The trail beneath Daniel's feet felt perfect, wide, clear, fast. It felt right. So he ran harder, heart pounding, breath burning, driven by ambition, and the unshakable belief that speed alone would carry him to greatness. Meanwhile, Marcus continued his climb in silence. No rushing, no ego. He checked the compass again and again, studied the slope, read the ground beneath his feet. When his body needed rest, he stopped. When the terrain changed, he adjusted. He wasn't competing with time. He was making sure every step actually meant something. Daniel, on the other hand, had been climbing for 6 straight hours by midday. His legs burned, his lungs screamed, but he felt proud. I must be close, he thought, wiping sweat from his eyes. Then he looked up, and his stomach dropped. The trail didn't rise anymore. It ended suddenly at a towering cliff face, sheer stone, no holds, no path forward, impossible. Daniel froze, staring in disbelief. No, this can't be right. He pulled out the old map with shaking hands. It clearly showed this trail leading straight to the summit. But the mountain told a different story. The map was wrong, or outdated, or maybe he had trusted it blindly. Daniel turned around and looked down. 6 hours of climbing, miles of distance. Every ounce of energy he had poured in, all of it had taken him the wrong way. To fix it, he would have to climb all the way back down, return to the beginning, and start over. The realization hit harder than the fatigue. Daniel collapsed onto a rock, burying his face in his hands. And for the first time in his life, he understood something brutal. Effort without direction is just exhaustion. He had run faster than anyone, pushed harder than anyone, believed in himself more than anyone, and yet he had been running toward nothing. While Daniel sat there broken, Marcus kept moving. His path wasn't easy. It was narrow, steep in places, demanding patience at every turn, but each step, slow and deliberate, brought him closer to the summit. By the time Daniel finally began his long descent in defeat, Marcus was already halfway up the mountain, exactly where Elena's map said he would be. It took Daniel 3 painful hours to climb back down. When he reached the base, the sun was already drifting toward the afternoon sky. His body was empty, his confidence shattered, and that's when he saw it. The narrow trail Marcus had chosen, the one Daniel had laughed at, the one he had dismissed as too slow. Daniel stood there, staring at it, and in that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. "I'll take Marcus's path," Daniel muttered. "I'll run it. I can still catch up." And so, drained but stubbornly determined, Daniel started climbing again, this time on the right trail. But the truth was unforgiving. He was already 9 hours behind. His muscles were empty. His breath came heavy and uneven. 2 hours into the second ascent, Daniel's eyes locked onto something dangerous. A shortcut. A steep, rocky scramble cutting sharply upward through the mountain. Risky. Unstable, but faster. "If I push hard enough, I can save an hour," he told himself. "I have to make up time." And once again, Daniel chose speed. Halfway up the scramble, disaster struck. His foot slipped on loose stone. His body dropped hard against the rocks. Not enough to kill him, but enough to break his momentum. His ankle twisted violently. Pain exploded up his leg. He tried to stand and failed. Running was impossible. Walking was agony. Daniel collapsed onto the cold stone, breathing hard, staring at the sky. Injured. Alone. Defeated. He had given everything he had. But once again, his choices had betrayed him. As darkness began to stretch across the mountain, Marcus reached the sacred summit. There was no trumpet sound, no explosion of light, just silence. Before him stood the temple, ancient, simple, untouched by greed or glory. Inside there was no gold, no treasure, no reward the world would recognize. Only a single sentence carved into stone: "The right path, walked slowly, will always defeat the wrong path, run quickly." Marcus sat down, exhausted but complete. And in that quiet moment, he understood the mountain's lesson. It was never about speed, not once. It was about having the wisdom to choose correctly before moving at all. The night before the climb, Elena had told him something he would never forget. "Marcus," she said softly, "life will place many paths in front of you. Some will promise fast success, fame, money, applause. They will look exciting. They will feel powerful. Others will look slow, difficult, unglamorous." Then she raised her compass. "This doesn't make you faster," she said. "It doesn't make the journey easier. But it shows you true north. And when you know where north is, you don't waste your life running south." She paused, then added, "Daniel will always run. He believes effort fixes everything. But effort aimed in the wrong direction is just suffering. You must learn to choose before you commit." Elena taught Marcus 3 principles. First, pause before you sprint. Most people choose quickly and regret slowly. The wise do the opposite. They choose slowly and succeed quickly. Before you spend your energy, study the path, because how you choose determines where you end up. Second, seek guidance from those who have already succeeded. Pride convinces people that their own judgment is enough. Humility reminds us that wisdom is borrowed from those who've walked the road before us. Strong legs can carry you far, but a good map can save your life. Third, accept this hard truth. The right path often looks slow at the beginning. The crowd always rushes toward whatever appears fast, exciting, and effortless. That's exactly why most people never make it. The few who do succeed are the ones willing to walk a path that looks unimpressive at first, but actually leads somewhere real. Sitting at the summit, Marcus finally understood something important. He hadn't succeeded because he was stronger than Daniel. He hadn't won because he worked harder. He had won because he chose better. He paused long enough to ask for wisdom. He trusted a proven path. And when temptation whispered shortcuts in his ear, he said no. And now, he stood where Daniel could not. Daniel was found the next morning by a search team, injured, shaken, and defeated on the mountainside. They carried him down. His ankle healed within weeks, but the damage to his pride lingered much longer. For months, Daniel blamed everything but himself, the mountain, the map, bad luck. Yet deep inside, he knew the truth. He had chosen speed over strategy, effort over wisdom, and it had cost him dearly. 6 months later, on a quiet evening, Daniel stood at Elena's door and knocked. "Grandmother," he said softly, "I need to learn what Marcus learned. I'm ready to listen now." Elena smiled. "You've already learned the most important lesson," she replied, "because being ready to listen is the first choice that truly matters." 1 year later, Marcus and Daniel climbed the mountain again, together. This time, there was no race, no competition. Daniel matched Marcus's pace. He trusted Elena's map. He asked questions instead of assuming. He chose carefully, not quickly. And this time, he reached the summit. Standing beside Marcus at the temple, Daniel read the inscription aloud. "The right path, walked slowly, will always defeat the wrong path run quickly." Marcus placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "You worked just as hard this time," he said, "but now you worked smart. That's the difference." When they returned to the village, Elena greeted them both. She looked at Daniel and said, "Now you understand. Effort is the engine, but choice is the steering wheel. Without both," she added, "you're just a powerful car, driving straight off a cliff." My friend, this story isn't really about a mountain. It's about every major decision you will ever face. Here's the hard truth most people don't want to hear. You can give everything you have, work relentlessly, sacrifice years of your life, and still fail. Not because you were lazy, not because you lacked discipline, but because you chose the wrong mountain to climb. The world loves effort. Work harder, never quit, just push through. And yes, effort matters, but effort without direction is just motion without progress. It's burning fuel while going nowhere. Before you pour your energy into anything, ask yourself 3 questions. First, am I choosing this path because it looks fast or because it's actually right? The crowd always chases what shines. The wise move toward what lasts. Quick wins often come with long regrets. Slow progress, done right, builds something that survives. Second, have I learned from someone who's already succeeded here? Pride whispers, "I'll figure it out on my own." Wisdom says, "Let me learn from those who've already paid the price." Daniel had speed, Elena had a map, and the map mattered more. Before you start climbing, find your Elena. Third, am I willing to look slow in order to arrive right? This is the hardest part. Choosing wisely often looks like falling behind at first. Daniel was far ahead until suddenly he wasn't. Trust the process of choosing well, even when others seem to be racing past you. Here's what they rarely tell you about success. The people who made it didn't just work hard. They worked hard in the right direction. They paused before committing. They asked for wisdom. They resisted shortcuts. They chose the path that looked slow, but actually led somewhere real. And you have a compass too. It's called patience. It's called discernment. It's the courage to ask, is this the right path? Before asking, how fast can I run? So here's my challenge to you. Look honestly at the path you're on right now. Your career, your relationship, your goal. Whatever you're pouring your life into, ask yourself, am I on the right path or just the fast one? And if it's the wrong path, hear this clearly. It's not too late to descend and choose again. Yes, it feels like starting over. Yes, it humbles you. But it's far better to restart on the right mountain than to keep climbing the wrong one for the rest of your life. If this story made you pause, even for a moment, Give it a like and share it with someone who's working hard but might be running in the wrong direction. Sometimes the greatest gift is helping someone realize there's a better route. Drop a comment below. What's one thing in your life that feels like running fast but going nowhere? Let's help each other choose better. I'll be back next week with another story designed to make you think differently about success. Until then, remember this: speed impresses people, direction changes lives. Choose your path like your life depends on it, because it does. The summit is waiting. But before you run, check your compass, your career, your relationships, your goals, and your dreams. Before you run harder, make sure you're running in the right direction. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.